Today we'll start off by looking at Unit 4, Bantustans. Okay, so Bantustans comes from the 1960s where Hare Verwoerd decided to create reserves. These reserves were specifically for natives, or Bantus as they called them back then, and every African had to belong to a homeland based on their language that they spoke. So if a family was from or had two different cultural backgrounds. They had to look at the kids based on which language they spoke the best, and that would be which parent they go with. So basically, in these Bantustans, the Africans had full political right to do their own thing, have their own government, but no country actually saw these homelands as independent from South Africa. The impact of the homelands on people. People were basically forced into moving. Homelands were poverty stricken as the land that was used for the white minority tended to be more fertile. There were no basic resources, no jobs, no services or hospitals, and many families were split up. This map depicts the different areas that were set apart to give you an idea of where each culture was placed. As from the 1950s, repression and non-violence resistance started against the whole apartheid regime. The ANC Congress was formed in 1912, for those of you that don't remember from last year, and they would bring greater resistance and lead to the downfall quickly, but it lasted 40 years and freedom fighters became more aggressive as time went on. The South African Communist Party started in 1921. It was led by leaders or inspired by leaders rather like Lenin, who represents the needs of workers in 1950. If you remember back to communism and capitalism, Lenin was the inventor of the communist ideology. In South Africa, the person depicted here on the right-hand bottom, Anton Lembede, came up with, he was the first leader of the ANC Youth League, and he told the older gentlemen that, you know what, we've been doing the same thing for so long, we maybe need to change the way we did it. So they started using moderate forms of protest, petitions, resolutions, marches. 1944, when the Youth League was formed, they called for a program of action. And this was specifically to take a more aggressive approach against apartheid. The Defiance campaign was greatly influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. Youth League wanted to confront the government with direct non-violent action. Government responded with growing repression. Mahatma Gandhi, for those of you that don't know, was an Indian leader who came to SA in 1893 as a young lawyer. Indians, as you know, faced the same repression and discrimination, and that's when the Satyagraha campaign started. Influence that influenced the Defiance campaign. The Defiance campaign in 1952 meant that large groups of Africans would act peacefully but would break the law deliberately. They aimed to get arrested and flood the jails. They wanted to draw the attention to the apartheid laws and get the government to change them. So the campaign revitalized the ANC and the membership grew to 100,000. Police responded very violently to the peaceful protests. As the non-violent campaigns grew, what the government decided to do was create more repression within the country. So they started the Public Safety Act of 1953, which allowed the government to declare a state of emergency if public order was threatened. The Defiance campaign led to the formation of the Colored People Congress, the Congress of White Democrats, the Defence and Aid Fund of SA in London, and the international solidarity with SA struggle. Please complete the mind maps for the following units. Units 4, Bantustans. Unit 1, Repression and Responses. Unit 2, The Brief Biography of Albert Luthuli. And Unit 3, The Defiance Campaign. Please complete the following homework activities. Activity 5, page 188. Activity 6, page 189. Activity 1, page 192. Activity 2, page 194. And Activity 3, page 197. Please remember to date all your work.